Fire, fire, fire. Fire is one of nature's most powerful elements. A friend when controlled, but a devastating enemy when ignored. In just a twinkle of an eye, it can sweep away homes, property, and years of labor, leaving behind ashes and sorrow. Its speed and power remind us why safety and prevention must never be taken for granted. In this presentation, Mr. Adesina SA, Commandant of the Technical Training Department of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, speaks on the importance of fire safety consciousness in building design and control. He explained that most fire incidents are not accidents but the result of neglect of planning permits, poor building practices, and disregard for safety regulation. Mr. Adesina stresses that true fire prevention begins from proper planning and compliance with building and safety standards. Watch this video to learn how to stay safe, protect your property, and support the collective mission of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service to safeguard lives across the state. Remember, prevention through obedience is better than rescue through regret.
My name is Adesina SA, the Commandant of the Technical Training Department, Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service. Here, I'm ably representing the Director, Lagos State Fire Rescue Service, Mrs. Abimbola Margaret Adesina. The simple topic before me this beautiful morning is fire and public safety in design of buildings. I repeat, fire and public safety in design of buildings. I want to ask a very simple question. From our own observations, do we really build in conformity to standard regulations, or we build based on personal interest? That's a question for all of us, because fire hazard is ranked almost the highest among many problems confronting the human race. Be it in a dwelling home, a commercial establishment, or private sector, fire still remains the most singular disaster that can render an empire into an irretrievable loss within a very short period of time. So, briefly, this is a video for the Idumota fire. We record fire incidents annually in the market. And based on our findings, we need to address the issue of construction and all other factors that can be responsible for fire spread. As part of the topic before me, we talk about setback, we talk about stage inspection. One of the reasons for setback is to ensure that we have accessibility to even carry out our operations. But unfortunately, because of attachments that are not even necessary, that we have in marketplaces, a lot of fires were very difficult to attack. So let's watch the video and see the destructive consequences of fire to our property. That building that you have put up, it doesn't take fire one day, just one day, to raise down the whole thing. So that is why we need to commence planning right from the inception. The Urban and Regional Law of 2010 introduced the State Fire and Rescue Service as a unit under the Lagos State Building Control Agency. And they are being incorporated to carry out certain tasks towards ensuring fire prevention, monitoring, and enforcement of the building code. I think I'm okay with that. Let's go on because of time. Can we go to the slide sharply? To the slide, please. As I was saying, the unit under the LAPSCA has been introduced to ensure compliance with the fire safety and public safety. I'm still waiting for the slide. All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at this introduction. The design of buildings plays a critical role in ensuring the safety of the occupants and the general public. Effective building design can help prevent fires. That's the key word. Effective design can help prevent fires, reduce the risks of injuries and fatalities, and minimize property damage. It can also promote public safety by providing clear escape routes, secure access controls, and effective emergency management response system. From this, we can all conceptualize the fact that the fire service perspective is focusing on fire safety and the public safety. So this overview highlights key aspects of fire safety and public safety in building design, including design consideration, the strategies, the relevant building codes, and regulations. So by prioritizing fire safety and public safety, building designers and owners can create a safe or safer and more resilient buildings that protect occupants and the surrounding community. Like I said, next slide, the perspective of the fire service on building design are fire safety and what? The public safety. What's the interest? Fire safety measures aim to prevent the fire from occurring. And that's when you think about making the right installations to detect the fire timely, the means of escape, and the suppression systems. The earlier you have this intervention, the better. Then on the public safety aspect, on the other hand, it focuses on designing buildings that are accessible, secure, and resilient in the face of what? Emergencies. A lot of places in Lagos, during emergencies, the fire truck may not have its way to the scene of emergency. Either because of lack of setback, either because of road obstruction and all that. So when we have the appropriate design, it's going to help in accessibility so that there can be effective response to emergencies. Let's go on. Now, these are the fire safety considerations. The unit of fire in LAPSCA are charged these responsibilities. What are their fire safety considerations? One, the fire resistance, the materials you are using for your construction. Are they fire resisting or combustible? The GM just spoke about laboratory testing of your materials to ensure that you are using the right specifications in accordance with the stipulated standard. This concerns the fire service because if you are using flammable materials, combustible materials, it is going to raise down the building within very few minutes. 2, the fire compartmentalization. When there's fire emergency, we can say technically you need to close up the place where the fire emanates from to prevent further spread. But if it is not compartmentalized, definitely the spread of fire will be very rapid. Fire detection and alarm systems. All of us seated here and myself, we are all detectors, only when you are there. When you are not in the building, this equipment will help you to detect that fire timely. The early detection of emergency is very important. And that's why this must form part of the considerations. Fire suppression systems. Majority of us believes in the use of water till today. People still believe in the use of water for firefighting operations. Yes, fire remains a major weapon. Water remains a major weapon of the fire service, but you cannot fight all fires with water. And that is why the appropriate extinguishing agent must be designed alongside with your building. Then the means of egress. A building is not considered safe unless you have in place adequate means of escape. Look at the population of people here now. In Nigeria, we like to say, nobody pray for this, nobody pray for that, and it is happening. When we look at that side behind us, I think that's one of the exits. There's another one here. There's one small one here. If you have adequate means of escape, for people to evacuate the building will be very easy. That's why we say that a building is not considered safe unless you have adequate means of what? Of escape. So that's a very fundamental aspect of what you need to consider when you are putting up a structure. Let's go on, please. Next slide. Next slide. All right. On the aspect of the public safety considerations, we talk about accessibility. Are you building a structure that will be accessible even when there's an emergency? It says that buildings should be designed to be accessible to all users, including those with disabilities. Visibility. Buildings should be designed to provide clear visibility inside and outside. That's why we have the luminescent type of directional signs that even when there is power outage, people can still follow the directional signs and get out of the building. Visibility is key. Security. Emergency response planning. If you have a structure and you don't have an emergency response plan in place, you are not prepared. Because we must be adequately prepared for emergencies. It comes unannounced. We need to get off that notion that it is never my portion in Jesus' name. If fire could have occurred in a church or mosque, I wouldn't know the holier place again. Tell me the holier place. We have fire extinguishers in our vehicles because of the fear of road safety. Is that correct? Is that correct? Why? Some people did not even buy fire extinguishers as small as it is because they have been told that you need to service your fire extinguisher maybe on 6 months or annually. They want to buy one fire extinguisher for the entire lifetime. Please, we need a positive change in our orientation towards safety. That's the key word. A positive change. All right. Then the last one is occupancy ratio. Occupancy is talking about whatever is contained in the building, either humans or all other things that you have in there. You need to consider it. The synergy among all relevant agencies or the stakeholders is to ensure that all aspects of safety are taken care of. And that's why we have different roles to play towards a common goal. We have experts here. You understand all these things, but what is the message? Are we really following them? Are we really following all this? Go ahead, please. The next slide. So these are design strategies. From the fire service perspective, we talk about the defensible space that some people call airspace and all that. There are a lot of buildings in Lagos that are, in fact, you don't even have any space for people to move, not talk of parking vehicles. All these are very important, especially when there's an emergency. Especially when there's an emergency. Fire-resistant materials, I've mentioned that. The materials you are using for construction should be fire-safe materials. Because fire can bring somebody back to square zero. Am I correct? If you want to put up a structure, it takes you a lot of pains, it takes you a lot of money and all that. But that doesn't concern fire. So if it comes up, it's going to be a serious problem. Smoke management. When there is fire incident, most times people are trapped by smoke. That's when you see somebody struggling with a burglar proof to escape from the building. You are not expected to compromise the safety standard for anything. Security and safety, they work at par. But at the same time, you must not compromise the safety standard. If you're having burglar proof here and there, eventually they become traps for you. And that's why you see somebody struggling with the burglar proof to escape when there's an emergency. Eventually, after some time, the smoke, when inhaled, will make them become unconscious. And by that, you see the person on the ground. So in construction, you must think about smoke management to help you reduce the risk of smoke-related injuries. The ventilation systems are there. Do we really consider them? Signages. I've mentioned directional signs here. These signages will put somebody who is not even a regular occupant of a building. We put you through, give you direction to follow to get out of a building. That's why it is very important. And I've mentioned the luminescent type that will even work even when there is power outage. Resilience, your building, can it be able to adapt under the emergency situation? Can people easily escape? And all that. All right? Let's look at these preventive measures that we need to take cognizance of at all times. Regular inspections. You need to regularly conduct inspections to identify hazards. 2, fire-safe materials. I've mentioned that. Think about it. So that if a fire begins, you can easily put it under control before it escalates. Electrical safety. It is required that you should contract experts to take charge of this because it's also a source of ignition. Everybody is saying that the best cable is the one produced in Nigeria, and we are still using the China-made. But the major thing is that you need to consult the experts who will do it based on specific standards and regulations. Fire alarms and suppression systems for early detection and suppression. Then, in case of commercial buildings or high-rise buildings, you must make provision for water supply. Water supply for firefighting operation is quite different from the domestic provisions. Because some of us will still believe in the gravitational force of our overhead tanks as against the electric jockey and diesel pumps that are supposed to be recommended. Because the pressure of water that is required for firefighting is quite different from what you use for domestic purposes. Combustible material storage. Store combustible materials such as gasoline, paint, and chemicals in well-ventilated areas outside of buildings. There are some chemicals, when you keep them under hot temperatures, it can lead to explosion. So that's why we need to take cognizance of all this. Then waste management. Do you make plan for waste management when you are planning your building? Because it is believed that fire spread can easily occur when your waste are not properly managed. Let's go on. Ensuring public safety. These measures must be taken. Emergency response plan, I've mentioned that. Clear exit routes. Clear, unobstructed. Directional signs and wayfinding, I've mentioned that. Accessibility features, such as ramps and elevators, to ensure that buildings are accessible to all users. Security measures, regular maintenance. That's another problem of Nigerians. Our maintenance culture is very poor, and we need to improve on it. A stitch in time saves 9. If you ensure regular inspection and maintenance, it's going to make that thing durable. It's going to make it stand test of time. Then, occupant education. It is through training and education that will remove the defects in the people. What you don't know, you get to know it, and you need to practice it. So as specialists, I want to believe that all these are very important and we need to watch out for them. Next slide. Regulatory compliance. Talk about the building codes and regulations. For the fire service, we have the National Fire Code that was enacted in 2013 by the Federal Fire Service, which is working for the federal, the state, and the local government. The Fire Safety Standard, the National Fire Protection Association, the Fire Service Act, all these are encompassing. Then the regular inspections that I've mentioned. Go ahead, please. Next slide. Setbacks. You are all aware of what setback means. I don't need to dwell much on that. But the problem we're having is we want to maximize the use of the available space. Our problem with setback is this. In most of the buildings, when you have adequate setback, it's going to give you room to designate adequate space for assembly point. Wherever you call your assembly point must be a place where even when the building is collapsing, it won't come directly on you. Tell me how many of our buildings can easily make provision for that. So setbacks is just the distance between a building or structure, the property line, street, or other reference point. They are typically established by local zoning regulations or building codes. The GM mentioned here that the LAPSCA will provide for you the setback parameters and all that. And the enforcement is to ensure that you follow it to the latter. Can we go ahead? The types of setbacks, front, rear, side, and all that. You are all aware of this. Go ahead. So, these are some of the examples of the parameters for setbacks. The federal highways, state highways, local roads, 45, 30, 12, and thereabout. I've told you that it's designed by the local zoning authority. So, whichever one has been given to you is what you are expected to follow. Let's go ahead, please. So, power line setback, rail line setback, and note that it is essential to note that these setback parameters may vary depending on the location and type of development. It is crucial to consult with relevant authorities and experts to ensure compliance. Go ahead. Factors influencing setbacks, neighboring properties. Because sometimes if the person before you doesn't comply with the setback rule, you want to take your own standard, it's not going to be aligned. Environmental concerns such as noise pollution. If you are building your house very close to the highway, you need to remember that the traffic noise is there. All right. Accessibility and the aesthetic considerations. All these are factors that can influence our setbacks. Please go ahead. Yeah, this is a very important aspect. The stage inspection. Before I talk about this, I want to give you another slogan. I want to add it to the first one. They said, build right. Build right. I want to add my own. If I say fire and public safety, you say it is our responsibility. Fire and public safety. Fire and public safety. Fire and public safety. Thank you very much. Now, the stage inspection. The unit of the State Fire Rescue Service under LAPSCA, they have these roles to perform. Before the construction, during, and after. What are you expected to do before the commencement? You think about the stability of the site. You think about the submission of the drawings. For what? For professional input. You have not put up the structure. You need to have requested for the input of the professionals before putting up that structure. Then when you are constructing, there are some of these fixed installations that must be considered in that process. And that's why the inspection during that time is crucial. So, under that, we talk about the fixed installations and the means of escape. It is going to be afterthought if you don't comply with the stipulated drawing to ensure that you have adequate means of egress. So in order to forestall that or prevent that from happening, there are supposed to be a kind of inspection at that time of construction to ensure that adequate means of escape are provided for. Then, after the construction, you now think about the fire detection and suppression systems that must be incorporated into the building to ensure the fire and public safety. Let's go ahead. So, in the National Fire Code, we have all this to check as firemen. The building itself, talking about the means of egress and all that. The electrical code, talking about the specifications of the cable, so that it won't affect the building by resulting in sparks and all that. And lastly, talk about the plumbing code. I've mentioned to you that the provision for water supply for domestic purpose is quite different from that of the firefighting operations. Please go ahead. Next slide. So these are the fire safety benefits of stage inspection. 1, early detection of defects. When the inspection is carried out during the process, the defects that may occur will have been identified and corrected. Prevention of fire spread. Because we have talked about smoke management and all that. Verification of fire-resistant materials. We all know. I want to believe that it is better for us to consider all these things so that it won't end up wasting our money. Because if you are striving for less expensive materials to the detriment of the entire building, that's what it means. Then ensuring compliance with what? With regulations. The only thing that can put you at rest is about following regulations. I want to cite a very simple example. Our forefathers sometimes, they might have constructed their building for decades. When the government comes around and say, we want to construct a new road and they want to follow standard, all those houses that have been built for decades, what happened to them? What happened to those buildings? They are demolished. And it's as simple as not following the rules. All right. So, the fire safety benefits, early detection defects, prevention of spread, verification of resistant materials, and ensuring compliance with regulations. Go ahead, please. Then for public safety benefits, reducing the risk of fire spread, preventing fire spread to neighboring buildings. If you have adjoining buildings and you don't have adequate space, when there's fire emergency, it's going to spread, right? Providing access for firefighting, that's our major concern. Very, very important. And mustering. Then reducing heat exposure by making provisions for ventilating systems and all that. Let's go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. In conclusion, ultimately, the design of buildings is a critical component of creating safer and more resilient communities. By prioritizing fire safety and public safety in building design, we can help protect people and property and promote a safer and more sustainable future for all. On this note, I want to say thank you very much for listening. God bless all of us.